What up, YouTube? It's your boy Banks, and we back in the building. You feel me? It's True Talks, cause True Talks. All right, let's get straight right into it. So you already know, man. The other night was obviously a big game. The big game was obviously for the Clippers. The Clippers and the Suns. You know, the Suns obviously won, the Clippers won Game 5. And now the Clippers were going to be home, trying to make a 3-1 comeback, trying to force a Game 7. You know what I mean? Try to do something that only a small amount of teams could do. And one of those teams was 2016 that Ty Lue was actually coaching. You know what I'm saying? So obviously it was more so, it wasn't far removed. It wasn't something that was, oh my God, it's going to be out of the ordinary. This is very, likable and very something that's attainable and reachable in terms of the Clippers actually forcing a Game 7, especially since they have the head of the snake, Ty Lue, that has done this before, right? So, when you look at it from that perspective, this game obviously was going to come down to, a 1-2 things. It's some minor adjustments, obviously, but we know who is who. We know what is what. And I told y'all the Suns are going to probably adjust their tempo. They're going to adjust their tempo. They're going to push the pace in order to counter the defense that they were playing and forcing them into half court and getting them away from their PNR type of up-tempo type of play, right? So when you now force up-tempo basketball, you're able to get into your actions quicker. You know what I mean? They're not going to be as attentive to, how, shrinking the floor. And all. You're going to get them out of their defensive comfortability and their defensive sets, which means force more chaos, cause more, helter-skelter, and they're not going to be on a string when you now push the tempo, because it's just communicating in transition and trying to, you're not on a string. So when you do that, that's what I said. That's a way to counter the great defense that the Clippers were playing. And that's what you saw out the gate. They pushed the tempo. Jay Crowder got a couple threes. D-Book was rolling, CP3, all of that. And you could see, obviously, pushing the tempo just created a whole different type of pace and space. Ayton was getting more, especially early. Ayton was getting a lot of touches. Like, you just was a more frantic type of pace. So that's what happened. And once I seen the Suns do that, I'm like, okay, this is not a regular game. This is gonna be a long battle for the Clippers coming down the stretch, because this ain't no regular. That's why you seen them get to 130. This was finally the time where they actually scored a lot. Remember, it was always 70s, 60s, 80s type of scoring. That's going to benefit the Clippers because, you know what I mean? The Suns want to increase the tempo, and that's what you saw. So the fact that Chris Paul could go 16 for 24, D-Book could go 10 for 26, that's two mans with 25 shots, basically. You have Crowder with 11, Ayton with 10. So, you're just increasing the tempo. So that in itself already was, they shot, 56% from the field, 55% from three. You know what I'm saying? Obviously not good from the free throw, but you're shooting 55 from the field and from three. That's just tempo type of play, right? So in pace and space. So, while the Clippers shoot 41% and 30%. So, on the other end, it's the same defense they were getting. So now when they're increasing the tempo and they're back on defense and you're not able to increase the tempo, your driving kick is not able to happen as potent as it should be and as it was before, due to the way they're, just rotating and the way they're just attentive. Remember, when you play with more energy on offense, it's gonna translate to the defensive end. So the Suns were just in tune with everything. It was just a struggle overall for the Clippers. Paul George 6 for 15. They did a lot of different shading and doubling him, not full doubles at times, but a lot of shading, forcing him to, okay, you can't just get to the paint anymore, because the blueprint for the Clippers is PG one-on-one, either kill or touch the paint, get to the paint, mans have to help, and then you kick out to shooters, and then they're getting open shots. But it wasn't the same type of attack the paint, right? Especially, that's why the shooters weren't getting the same type of looks. They're getting more contested shots because they're shading you, right? So PG's trying to create, and when PG's trying to create, he's already shaded and prevented from getting into the paint. So now when he kicks out, man's already knowing you're about to kick out, and they're already rotating and getting back to the shooters in time. It's not the same like you kill a man, go to the paint, and the man's have to sell and fully help. You know what I'm saying? That now you get way more open looks. And that was the blueprint. That was a way to counter defensively, you know, what the Clippers were doing offensively for the Suns. So, you know, it was an uphill battle. And at some point, you know, you could just see the eyes from the Suns, the eyes from Chris Paul, the eyes from Monty, all of them is like, we about to kill y'all today. We about to end it today. We're not going to a game 7. There's no way. And you can see it in their eyes. And you can see off Chris Paul, ability after ability after ability. That boy is killing me. And it just bucket after bucket after bucket. That's when you know someone's operating on a high level. A high level. When they're able to get bucket after bucket. Not just bucket after bucket. Bucket after bucket with ability. With Arsenal. The man scored 27 of the last 35 points for the Suns or something like that. Bruh, after he got inserted back into the third quarter and it was just boom, 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 boom. And that's what was happening. It's like, bruh, at some point, it's like, you know, you just got to tip your hat off to what Elite looks like. There's like, again, all straight, mainly PNR. Even when they didn't PNR, he stepped back in from 3. Like, bruh, and you could tell, you know, there was just, bruh, it's just, this is what Elite looks like, man. It's just Elite. D-Book will get a hair in the mix here and there with 3 field goals, sprinkle it in. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was tough, man. That was greatness what you saw. Like, the lead, it looked like the Clippers were coming back. And then right around the last minute or whatever, so of the third quarter, take out Cameron Payne, bring in Chris Paul. We about to close this shit. And he just went on an onslaught, a real onslaught. And that's what I'm like, that's the same thing you heard me say when I was talking about Embiid, right? When I was talking about Embiid before, people were like, what are you talking about? I'm like, dog, Chris Paul's injured. Chris Paul has they said he has a torn ligaments in his wrist, in his shooting hand. Did the man, like, there's a different mental game capacity that you have to operate on to be able to fight through injuries, to will your team. It doesn't matter. It's like, dog, doesn't matter if I'm put buckets on a platter. Don't matter if I'm injured. Don't matter. They don't matter. There's no excuse. And that's what I'm saying with Embiid. You see him with the torn meniscus, killing early, frying, looking like he's healthy. And then all of a sudden now, in the palm sweaty time, when you have the lead, it's now time to shut the door. It's now, you're not moving the same. Now it's, he tried, he gave it his all. No, trying giving it his all is if you snapping like KD did, like Dame did, and then you gave it your all because palms are sweaty for everybody else. I'm a carry then, and then you don't get over the hump. That's giving it your all. Not just because you're out there on the court. What are you talking about? Context. The man was frying in the first. Like, this is what I'm talking about. This is the same thing, man. Other mans are injured. So many mans that are injured, I won't say nothing. But at the end of the day, we gonna fry, we gonna carry. We not like, you go on your run, you trying to come back? No, not today. How many? There's multiple games, 3 straight games or whatever it was. 2 games, and then they won the 1 game, and then now the last game. 3 out of the 4 games, the Hawks came back from down. That's what I'm talking about, man. You have to close the door at some point. If you operate on a high mental game, or a high mental capacity, and you're that guy, you're going to find a way. And that's what I'm talking about. That's what Chris Paul did. He found a way and got bucket after bucket by himself. All me, bruh, they better call me. That's simple. And that's what I'm talking about, man. And honestly, like, I even digress. But, let's go into the context, because I give it that context. Let's go straight right into it, boy. Obviously, it would be, I know some of y'all would want the breakdown and all of that type of stuff, but we're gonna have serious conversation, because I don't want to do breakdown and talk about it so long and make this video way, way longer than it needs to be. I'm just gonna straight go out and just talk about some crucial things, especially like, where do the Clippers go from here, right? First, before we talk about the Clippers, again, we're gonna continue talking about the Suns, and as quick as possible. A lot of people are gonna say it's all Chris Paul. A lot of people are gonna say this, that, and all this injury type of stuff. I'm gonna debunk a 1-2 narrative that I'm gonna debunk, right? And I've been talking with people like this, people be tweeting me and obviously being comments or whatever. And, I just put a blue cap because I'm like, it's cap. Obviously, sometimes I go into depth, sometimes I don't, because, how many characters can mans go on Twitter, and then I'm going to re-say it in the video like it's extra. So I'm just going to talk about it in the video, right? So I remember someone, I forgot his name. I didn't even need to start shouting people out that tweet at me, or, you know what I mean? But, someone tweeted basically, obviously, and most people have been talking about this in terms of the Suns. Injury, right? First round, no AD. So this is the narrative. First round, no AD. They probably would have lost. Second round, no Jamal Murray. They probably would have lost. Third round, no Kawhi. They probably would have lost. So for 3 straight rounds, they got an injury-riddled type of team, and they won. All right? That's the narrative. Now, it's time to debunk that shit, because that's what I do, right? Just being honest. Like, people are now trying to compare this to the bubble because, you know, every time you have this certain type of, a lot of it is LeBron fan base, that they wait for something to happen similar to them to now just be like, see, but now just try to basically try to like flip it or be like, oh, if this was LeBron, then if this was LeBron, finding a way just to give LeBron or his team's gratification in terms of, you know, they're just waiting for that moment. That's all they're doing. They're silent. They wait for the moment, then they pounce. That's what they do. That's how they move. Most fan bases don't move like that. But anyways, so they've been feeling and been hearing about that bubble shit is cap and this, that, and the third. So now they're waiting for, oh, look at this. Isn't this supposed to be cap too for the Suns? And that's what they're trying to highlight, right? Because if it was cap for us, then it better be cap for. It's the same thing. Oh, if LeBron airballed, then this is how they move. Everything is, if LeBron is centered, it always gets back to him, right? But I don't even want to focus on that. But it's just funny when you just hear it nonstop. But anyways, you know, let's go into what I'm talking about. Basically, they're saying the Suns have been, you know, facing your team for 3 straight rounds, which is true to a certain extent. You know what I'm saying? Now, people just look at it from the Suns because they won. Now, this is what happens a lot of the times. It's always hindsight, right? When a team wins, now your narrative that you run with is a outdated or a narrative that doesn't include the context that transpired at that moment of time. But luckily, you have a guy with IQ, that's what I do, that remembers everything. You know what I'm saying? I know what they said at the time. So that's where now the narrative gets debunked, because if this was really true, the minute AD was injured, it would be the Suns are going to win, we done. That's what it would have been. No, they said LeBron could beat the Suns. Everybody, go on any media outlet, go on all the comms, go back in time. You know what I'm saying? If you can, if you want to spend the time, go back in time. But if you don't want to, I'm going to let you know, because I don't cap. You know what I'm saying? That's why I show the cap, because I expose all the cap. But at the end of the day, this is what they said. They said LeBron could beat the Suns. They diminished the Suns. They acted like the Suns were basically Fugazi, that do whatever. With AD is guaranteed win. Without AD, LeBron just has to snap and he could win. He could win you 2 games. That's what they said. Remember, AD went fully down, game 4? So you had 5 and 6, right? 4, 5, 6, basically. We could win. They were up 2-1. Don't forget that. They were up 2-1, right? And sorry, before I even go into that, they always focus on one side injury because that's when you know someone's biased. A person who is fair and a person who actually understands context, what would they say? They would say, yeah, AD went down, but they also won a game when Chris Paul was down for 3 games. When Chris Paul was down for 3 games and AD was good, they won 2 out of those 3 games. Did anyone say, oh, the Lakers only won because Chris Paul was out? No. No one said that. Y'all acted as if, you know what I mean? The fact that you lost the game, even with Chris Paul being injured, that doesn't mean now how does that automatically mean with AD being healthy and LeBron being whatever, they would have guaranteed won the series with a healthy Chris Paul and a healthy D-Book? They were the 2nd seed for a reason. It's more than just the 2 guys. The guys around the Lakers, they can't shoot. So at some point when you've seen how the Suns play athletically defensively. One, you're not just going to beat us and kill us in the paint and just blow by us and get to the paint. You've seen how they locking that up. Now, if you do get to the paint, we have enough length. We have 8 in. We have enough where what's going to happen? We're going to now shrink the floor. We're going to make you pass to your shooters, and your shooters can't shoot. It's proven. Without the bubble, it's proven that your shooters don't shoot all year. Before the bubble, they didn't shoot well. After the bubble, they didn't shoot well. And this season, they didn't shoot well. So that's the common denominator. Y'all don't shoot like that. Y'all might have 1 and 2 blue moons, 1, 2 games here and there where you shoot well. But for the majority of the time, y'all don't shoot well. And what's the common denominator in these playoffs? When the team doesn't shoot the 3 well, 8 times out of 10, they lose a game and the series, which is why the Nuggets went from splashing, if you ask me, versus the Blazers. And then with the Suns, again, what's the common denominator with the Suns? They force you to not shoot well because they're contesting everything. They're creating you to go to your 3rd and 4th option within that offensive possession, right? Because they have length. They shrink the floor. They make you pass the ball to a guy that looks open. They rotate. They get back. That guy's not open. They force you to shoot contested 3s. They're on that. Once in a, you might hit 1, 2, whatever, but majority of the times you're going to shoot horrendous. Look at the whole series that they did to the Clippers, even without Kawhi. Remember, that same Clippers team without Kawhi was splashing all day versus the Jazz. So there's a common theme that the Suns actually have. There's a blueprint that they have. They're elite defensively. They have bare 3-and-D guys. And then offensively, they have the two main creators. And everyone eats off of them, including Ayton. That's a blueprint that can beat any team. Which is why one, they were the second seed. Even when Mans were healthy, they were up there. It's not like they just got there because Mans were injured. No, they've been there from time. You know what I'm saying? Not only that, this is why I've said from time, if you really have IQ and you really understand the play styles and understand how this works, every team on their role players tries to incorporate a 3-and-D guy. That's the pinnacle. That's what the analytics say. That's what you want. You want, if your guy isn't a creator or whatever, an elite guy, you want him ideally to be 3-and-D. That's where value is. That's why 3-and-D guys are getting paid recklessly. That's the best role player value is 3-and-D, which is why Jay Crowder can go to 2 straight finals with 2 different teams. 3-and-D. You have multiple Jay Crowders, longer versions and Mikal Bridges, right? You have Cam Johnson. You know what I'm saying? They have length defensively. Like, this ain't no joke. Everybody's basically a 3-and-D. Even Booker's been playing defense. You know, Chris Paul's basically 3. Every man is a 3-and-D base, and some men have further creating ability than that. But every man is basically 3-and-D on the whole team. So, like, come on now. Mans are just like, dog, it's not, oh, you're just going to beat the Suns because you had this. There's no, dog. It don't work like that. Basketball don't work like that. It don't work that you just have to have the main two. There's more to that. There's more to that. I've always told people the Lakers have always been capped. I've been told that from time because it's LeBron and AD, but the guys around them, there's ways to cancel LeBron and AD and force the role players to shoot when they're not shooters. If they have shooters around them, that's where it's impossible. That's why you see Milwaukee be Milwaukee. Because they have shooters around them. They might even struggle 1-2 under shooting. But at some point, those creators going to create on the perimeter. Middleton and Drew. At some point, you saw that versus the Nets. At some point, that's what they did. AD is their only creator on the perimeter like that. So if he's frail and he's not moving how he's supposed to be moving, it's a wrap for the Lakers most of the times, regardless of what LeBron does. That's why you've seen even in the finals in the bubble, AD, all of those games, even when LeBron was snapping, AD was creating on the perimeter. He got limited touches because now LeBron's going to work, but he kept that base there. That's why his average was maybe 2-3 points off of LeBron. That's why some people were even saying AD needs to be Finals MVP. That's what they were saying. You understand? He was the creator for them. So if AD is canceled and not able to create or whatever like that, and if let's say he's fully healthy, and there's ways to shade him, double team him, force it out of his hands, make LeBron a shooter on the perimeter. You know what I'm saying? Make every man have to catch and shoot, and you rotate them, and they're playing on the back end of the clock. They're going to be in the 80s. You've seen them do that with great shooting team in the Clippers. They're in the 80s. So what they going to do to the Lakers who play slow tempo and don't even shoot like that and don't score like that? They're going to be in the 60s. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's be real. Like, we have to have a basketball conversation, fam. We have to have a basketball conversation. And that's where people get lost. And then they say, oh, you tripping. They just talk about things in general. Oh, my God, if AD's injured, he would have been. And then if this guy's injured, dog, it don't work like that. There's the way teams play differently with guys at hand. How you have to assess how how it would work in terms of play styles, defensive schemes, this team's blueprint versus this team's how it would work. This is why most of the times you see me in my assessment of who's going to win, most of the times I'm right. Most of the times. In terms even for this team versus this team, because you could assess the play styles. You could assess that. Now, you're never always going to be right. Obviously, it's basketball. But, you know what I mean? It's more so like, it's not like man's just completely off the grid and wrong all the time. It's like, you know, it's not like that. So anyways, like what I was saying, I digress. Basically, in the first round, even with AD healthy, you've seen the Suns, if they had Chris Paul and whatever move healthy, you've seen how they would move. And not only that, let's go further than that. When Chris Paul was injured, right? When Chris Paul came back and now it was LeBron versus the Suns, they still said they can't get to the finals without AD, but they can definitely beat the Suns. You can give me 2 games, LeBron. But he wasn't able to do it. So yet, now, even at that moment in time, if y'all really believed that, oh, the Suns only won because AD was injured, right? And if AD was healthy, the Suns would have lost. Then why at that point in time when AD was injured, y'all still said they're going to win that series? Because LeBron is going to be LeBron. But because he wasn't able to beat LeBron, now you brought up the ankle. Now you brought up all of that stuff when they were still clowning Jay Crowder and the man was doing a high punch off the backboard and all of that type of stuff. That's what Mans was doing. So now in hindsight, now when it's done, now it's, LeBron and AD weren't healthy. That's why. Stop capping. Y'all never believed that until you finally lost. That's when you know Mans is capping and they lying. And they saying anything to just make, them sleep at night. And that's when you know Mans is capping. Now we passed that. So that I already debunked that Fugazi stuff. Because if it really was just about injuries, you would have really said once a man went down, it's over. It's done. They not winning. That's what it would have been. And then Suns, congratulations. That's not what it was. Now it was that for the Nuggets series. I even lied. For the Nuggets series, they still even said without Jamal Murray, it's probably going to go 6 or 7. It's going to be a tough series. Then now when it becomes a sweep and Mans get swept, now they go, without Jamal Murray. Like, come on now. Are y'all serious right now? Are y'all serious right now? Now, I'm not saying it wouldn't have been a tough series without Jamal, but Mans are acting like the Suns still can't win that series without Jamal. Or with Jamal. Like, what are Mans really talking about? What are Mans really talking about? It wouldn't have been a sweep, but it would have been 6-7 games. You acting like the Suns won't win a 6 and 7 game series. Come on now. They only had one sweep. Every other round they won was 6. Let's have a real conversation instead of these narrative Fugazi conversations. Let's have a real conversation. What Jamal Murray is gonna bring differently to the table is he's gonna bring that firepower offensively. So maybe a blowout doesn't be a blowout. But let's be real. Is Jamal Murray stopping Chris Paul and Devin Booker in the pick and roll? Because that was the problem. Jokic in the pick and roll and the drop. Let's really talk basketball. That's not going to change. They might have more offensive power and whatever the case is, but Jamal's not just locking up defensively Chris Paul. Like, come on now. In fact, that means Capazzo plays less minutes, and Capazzo is actually in Chris Paul's grill trying to stop him. So Jamal Murray is going to get fried in the pick and roll. Let's be real. So, you know what I mean? Like, man, like, you have to talk basketball instead of just this man was in. Like, come on now. There's more to the game than that. Don't dilute the game. That's a cop-out. Let's be real. Now let's go to the next round. Now we're talking about with the Clippers, obviously, that we have here, Clippers and Kawhi and them. And obviously, man's act like, and this is where I'm going to shift the conversation to a Clippers conversation, because man's act like this is where and Baldwin Star was talking about this too, but this is where and this is what I've been trying to highlight as well too. That's why I was trying to say PG narrative was always capped. PG is a number 2 option with Kawhi has been Fugazi, yes, because there's a lot of things at play. There's rhythm, there's the psyche, I'm not comfortable, X, Y, and Z. But PG in the number 1 option has went to the conference finals before, has went to the conference finals again now. You know what I'm saying? He's been thriving. Even when he got exited in the first round and stuff like that, his numbers, he was killing. He was, CJ Mouse, you better pass me the rock, fam. Like, he was that guy. He was nice like that. It's only now when he went to roles where he's a second option. He might be the third option, like OKC, right? Now you go to the Clippers, where now he's looking Fugazi at times. So that just shows you where this man clearly is at his best as a number 1 option. And there's guys that are like that sometimes. They struggle playing outside of, because in the number 1 option, especially when you've had that. So let me explain it like this. There's guys who want to be a number 1 option, but they've always lived in a number 2, number 3 type of, option where they get it in limited touches. That now, perfect example is like Jaylen Brown, right? Jaylen Brown has always, before this year, right, has always lived in a number 2, number 3 type of option. So you don't see him complain, even though he wants to do more. He knows how to be elite in that number 2, number 3 type of role, because that's all he has given once he's entered the league. He's never gotten to the number 1 option. So you're going to find ways. It's not going to affect you as much. Yes, it's still, I'm not going to be the best version of myself, but it's not going to be like you're a complete shell of yourself in that role. What happens is some guys who have now been a number 1 option and now have to digress to something else. That's where it's like, it's hard for them to reel it back and go to an option that they haven't been in a minute. When you've always been living in this, I can have everything auto green light. I have all this rhythm. I have all of this. So like, you're comfortable in that. And all of a sudden, boom, you're put in a different light. You're put in a different role. It's like, it's hard mentally to even grasp that and even just be comfortable when you're used to being comfortable in I get everything. I get pin downs. I get this because I'm the main guy. I get whatever I want. As opposed to now you're limited. It's like, it's hard for certain guys. Certain guys, like you'll see KDs, you'll see guys like it doesn't matter because their talent and their mental confidence is operating on a high level that they're good. They're Gucci wherever. Put me wherever. I'm a fry. I'm a fry him on this island. You get what I'm saying? There's levels to all of this. This is the mental aspect that, you won't see media, you won't see, casual fans, you won't see those guys kind of attest to or even talk about or even acknowledge, right? This is what goes on in the mind of a hooper, which is why, again, really knowing basketball is not just understanding the results. It's not just understanding what you saw, but understanding why what you saw is happening. That's the next level. That's going into the mind, understanding, okay, putting yourself in the player's shoes. If I'm in the corner, you have to, and you can't really get to that level unless you've played. It's rare that you'll see someone who hasn't played understand the game to that aspect and could speak from that angle, right? And that's where you get a lot of people, you dilute the game because you just dismiss one whole spectrum of one of the important main things that is actually transpiring, which is the psyche. Because again, if the game is 80%, 90% mental, you hear Hooper say that all the time, but we're only talking about the skill 20% and the stats. You're leaving a whole 80% of the game, which is really why what we get and what we see is from that aspect. You're just erasing that, which is the bulk of the game. So, you know what I mean? That's why you dilute the game, and it's sensitive. You know what I'm saying? It's all like you can't dilute the game, and that's where if it's unauthentic and it feels fugazi, right? And that's why there's people, like Ball Don't Stop. There's me. Obviously I'm not close to his level, but you know what I mean? There's guys out there who will speak like different podcasts, right? You get, Matt Barnes and them, all the smoke. You get different aspects, different insight to the game, right? KD doing what he's doing to it, etc. There's a lot of podcasts out there that are doing that. Well, not a lot in the grand scheme, but there's a few. JJ Redick and them, there's, you know what I mean? You get that aspect. Inside the NBA also does that too, right? You get a lot of, that's why I appreciate those guys and I listen to them because we speak the same language. You get what I'm saying? So, anyways, the point is that's the real IQ of the game at the end of the day, right? That's the real IQ of the game. So when you look at it from that perspective, again, you can't just, Kawhi's there, they would have won, right? Like, look at it from, this is what Ball Don't Stop was talking about, right? And I see it the same way too. And when you look at how the Clippers played, now this is versus the Suns, right? Not just the Suns, just throughout. The Clippers, how they played with Kawhi there. And I was always telling you guys this from time. This is why a lot of y'all were getting mad at PG a lot of the times. I was never mad at PG. Remember before when PG and Kawhi were together. And this is the reason why. So we're going to talk, and this is going to translate to how they need to moving forward, right? So in terms of the Clippers, right, PG and Kawhi together, the team moves completely different than PG without Kawhi and how everyone else moves, right? How everyone else moves. Now they do miss Kawhi at times in terms of a half court creator when they're forced to one-on-one and that driving kick game gets canceled. That's when you obviously be like, okay, they miss Kawhi. But it's kind of like a gift and a curse. The Kawhi offense that they've run with the Clippers is stagnant. Kawhi sometimes isn't in his bag, and when Kawhi is in his bag, he's stiff. You know what I mean? If he gets doubled, anytime you throw a hiccup in, like when Kawhi's one-on-one, and he's in that bag, you've seen Game 6 when they let him be one-on-one at the end, he just fried. But when they do, we're going to double him, and we're going to cut this shit off. That's when you see, like, oh my God, Kawhi's not being aggressive. Then he's doing that forced pickup, passing late. Man, they're now ISOing late in the clock, and it's just a fugazi offense. The team in general doesn't operate on this high octane level that the team actually operates, which is why they didn't really blow out teams, or they're close or whatever, or they have those 1-2 games where they blow, or they're inconsistent in their play, right? In terms of just how they play, Clippers are always inconsistent. Don't get it twisted, but they were more inconsistent in their play because of the flow at hand, the system at hand, and just how they play in terms of the others. Kawhi was always guaranteed Kawhi, but the others weren't comfortable, weren't having rhythm, weren't potent. When you see with PG, the others, the way these guys are snapping, Reggie's best games has been when Kawhi's been out. Obviously, Kawhi's out, someone's going to step out, but that's just a cop-out. Look deeper than that. Look at how they play. They look completely two different teams because now Reggie Jackson is more ball handling. He's not just a spot-up guy. Obviously, that because Kawhi's ball handling comes out, yes. But PG's fluidity in terms of how he moves, in terms of how he gets to the paint, enables Reggie Jackson to do the same and enables the shooters to, there's just a lot of more ball movement in general. Because they did run that drive and kick offense with Kawhi too, but it wasn't the same because Kawhi is going to get to my spot, not there, force pickup, it doesn't work, pass it, and then now they're like, okay, give it back to Kawhi. And then, you know what I mean? It's not, and then a lot of the times he's going to get there, and then like at 6 seconds now, he force pickup, he has nothing there, he holds the ball, man's have to run to him, then he has to pass to the corner. The mans are playing helter-skelter in the back end of the clock, as opposed to PG doesn't really force pick up his dribble. He normally dribbling, and he'll do his gather, but at least it looks like it's a layup now when man's help now. Now he kicks to the corner. Now that guy can fake pass or touch pass to the next guy. Batum has it, driving kick, dribble, and you just see movement, and mans are getting set shots clean. And then now mans are able to even ice them. Kind of now that they feel good about themselves getting those set shots. Now you see Marcus Morris get in his bag. Go into high post, fam. Do you work? When is Marcus Morris able to just cook like that with Kawhi? It's just Kawhi. We try and go to Kawhi first, everything else second. PG's not getting, his rhythm is canceled. So with Kawhi, you're not getting the same role players and you're not getting the same PG, which is why Kawhi, I've always said and always harped on, Kawhi, you have to go for 40. Because I already know the way this team plays, if Kawhi isn't being Kawhi, rarely are you going to get the role players snap like that because of the way they play in this offense. Kawhi, if this offense is a Kawhi offense, Kawhi has to be Kawhi or else they're not even, like, we already know. That's why you never see me focus on PG scoring because I already know PG scoring and snapping like that, that's a bonus. But in order to win, Kawhi has to be Kawhi, which is why you saw versus the Mavs. The games Kawhi snaps, they win. The games Kawhi is mediocre, or even if he's snapping, but it's like 30 and it's just all pain or whatever, it's like, you know what I mean? It's But when Kawhi is aggressive and he's snapping, that's what I mean. Aggressive, snapping, dictating, and moving like how he moves, that's when the Clippers were able to win. But outside of that, they don't win. Now, on the flip side, when PG has had a game where he shot 6 for 15, and they won. PG has had a game where he didn't shoot the best, and they've been close, and they maybe lost in the end. You know what I mean? Like, when PG's struggling, even that game, even versus the Jazz, the game 6 or whatever, he didn't even snap OD. He didn't. But his penetration, his getting assists, like the shooters were snapping, Terrence Mann, like all these other guys were unlocked due to the initiation that Paul George did because of his fluidity. You know what I'm saying? And Reggie Jackson as well now upgrading to a ball handler. So now you look at it, this is why it's valid where people are going, should the Clippers just let go of Kawhi because the way the team moves on a high octane offense in terms of as a whole versus you have Kawhi individually who is great, but the team is like hit or miss when he's there because of the role players around him. It's not that Kawhi is a problem. We've seen Kawhi with role players with the Toronto Raptors, how they move. The problem is, this is what I'm saying, it's the type of role players you have versus the other type of role players he had in Toronto. The type of role players Kawhi had is more so there is a hierarchy established. They're not like creators, so it's always Kawhi. They get it, and then they feed off Kawhi and all that type of stuff. In here, in the Clippers, he has guys, Morris can get a bucket, PG can get a bucket, Reggie Jackson can get a bucket. Like, he has bucket getters, right? That they're not just catch and shoot guys. So, you know what I mean? There's some, like, you know, it's even though they get catch and shoot, they're not catch and shoot type of guys as opposed to a Danny Green, as opposed to a Lowry is going to play like he's going to, you know, he's good in his catch and shoot. Pascal can catch and shoot here and there and then drive to the paint. But other than that, everybody other than Pascal was literally, they're okay catching and shooting. They literally live and die. They can get 20 off catch and shoots. Like, they're catch and shoot shooters. Even they're not going to make every shot. Don't get it twisted, but they're not just creators playing as a catch and shoot guy, as opposed to the Clippers. You have bare creators playing a catch and shoot role now. So even though they did be like, you know what, this year we're not going to try and create OD, we're going to live into our catch and shoot game, and they did be posting with it all year. That's why they're the number 1 3-point shooting team. But there's still, when it comes to the playoffs, if you're not hitting your shots, you're still a creator at heart. So you need rhythm to get back that flow, to get back that shot, which is why you can see Marcus Morris struggle for time, right? You see these type of things, right? But in terms of the offense, you've seen two different offenses. It's not, people are going to hear this and hear what he said, Ball Don't Stop, and think it's a Kawhi versus PG conversation when it's not really. It's not. Kawhi is better than PG in terms of just the mental and the ability. His ability isn't higher than PG's, but his mental game is 10 times higher. So you've seen that's why he's a 2-time finals. And like, we're not gonna get into that conversation. Kawhi is obviously better than PG. That's not an argument. But the point is the flow. The team with Kawhi centered and the team with PG centered. Compare the two. The team with Kawhi centered will never come back from a 25-point deficit. The team with PG centered, because of the driving kick, the way they move, was able to come back from a 25-point deficit. That's why you've seen the team with Kawhi played a better team in the Jazz, and it went 6 games. But the team with Kawhi centered played a lesser team in the Mavs, and it went 7 games. Right? You could already see. The team with PG centered literally lost 1 game on the road that they should have won if PG didn't miss the free throws. People are acting like, oh, if Kawhi's and then you're not going to get the same PG. You're not going to get the same role player, so Kawhi still might snap and actually might even be more of a blowout for the Suns. Because now you can even double team Kawhi. The chance of him trying to now swing it and whatever is going to kill time. Sometimes it even takes him 3 seconds just to pass. Because of that forced pickup stuff. Like, he's not fluid with his forced pickup. Like, y'all know what I'm talking about. I do breakdowns on and show y'all all the time. Right? And it's not a knock against Kawhi. Just understanding the games and understanding how play styles matter until when you integrate a guy and when you take out a guy, like the situations like is different. It's different. So that's what I'm saying. When you center the offense around Kawhi, it looks like it's going to be a struggle every series, which is what you literally saw from the bubble even too. It's always a struggle every series. Kawhi stamp. You're always like, what is everybody else doing? Oh my God, it's only Kawhi. And that's why I've always said, forget everybody else. Kawhi, it's you. You better work. Because if you don't work, we already know what's going to happen. This is what the offense was centered around. It's similar to like LeBron and his offense, where LeBron will get his numbers, but it's like you know what I mean? Then the minute this other person unlocked, or the minute this guy now is, let's say LeBron's more off the ball and like Kyrie's frying, that's when you see more wins. Anytime Kyrie fried, it's wins. LeBron will fry, it's a win or a loss. But when Kyrie fries, it's guaranteed a win or a close game. And that's what I was trying to tell. There's difference. It's the same thing, right? It's the same type of thing because of the offense, because how they're scoring is 2 different types of scorings, right? So when you look at it with PG, his rhythm, everything is just off, right? When he's with Kawhi, like he's not getting the same type of rhythm. He's not the same guy, right? He's just, when he's the number 1 option, he's comfortable, he's confident, and he moves completely different. Completely, like the PG you saw was not the PG you saw with Kawhi, right? And so when you look at it from that perspective, it actually might go reverse in the other way if Kawhi now is playing versus the Suns. Maybe, you know what I mean? Maybe there's the two that like maybe they don't even get a game winner situation. Like all that type of stuff happened. Now with PG, they still lost 1 game on the road due to a mishap, obviously. Even with PG missing the free throws, they allowed a tip in, a rare case scenario. Right? And then again at home, what happened in game 4? Missing free throws, another rare case scenario. So there's 2 games that were slipped out of, that were taken from them, obviously from themselves, but that were stolen. So let's say they win those 2 games, right? It could be 4-2, or they win one of those. Like, it's not, mans are acting as if like it was guaranteed. Like, mans are acting like people didn't think the Clippers could still win the series. So to make it seem like the Suns just, oh, they got the injury, like points could be made that the team actually played better with Kawhi even injured than the team played with Kawhi being there. Because like there's an argument. There's literally an argument at bay at that. So when you look at it from that perspective, it's not the Suns. The only one I would say more so is the injury probably hindered what the series really would be is the sweep from 4-0 in the Nuggets. Every other series, I feel like the series probably would have been, it's not I feel like, I know, the series probably would have been either maybe add 1 more game to 7 or it's the same 6 games, whether those guys are healthy or not. And that's what you like. It's not going to change by that much, really, for real. It's not going to. So when you look at it from that perspective, man, I just, obviously it's unfortunate that the Clippers did lose, right? Congrats to the Suns. Congrats to them. Obviously Chris Paul deserves it. this narrative that, mans are injured, but all it's just fugazi. Now, what would really matter if they go to the finals and the Bucks or the Atlanta Hawks is hella injured, then obviously that's more so, because if you look at it, every year a team has faced a team with another player is injured in the conference finals, or it's always been like that. It's honestly always been. You've seen that with the Warriors versus the Houston Rockets. Chris Paul gets injured. You know what I mean? You've seen it with other times, or when they face Memphis, then, someone was injured. Like, it happens. Always on the road leading to someone gets injured. Like, it always happens. But what is more so rare is injuries in the finals. Now, it does happen, but that's when you get more of an asterisk, is when there's an injury in the actual finals. Forget the other rounds. We don't care about that shit in the finals. So that's why I said, okay, if mans come and Giannis is fully healthy or Trae Young is fully healthy, it's not going to be an asterisk because they're facing a fully healthy team in the finals. That's all that matters. A team that made it there literally deserves it. Are you facing a fully healthy team? And mans also too are acting like the Suns were like a 5th seed. If the Suns were like the Hawks and they face injury team, then that's more so, it's not even really a debate. Okay, you only got, you know what I mean? But you're the 2nd seed. It's because y'all look at the Suns as not the 2nd seed that y'all believe all these other teams they face were better than them, when they weren't. They weren't. Let's just be honest. They weren't. Injuries or not, they weren't. The Suns were the 2nd seed. The Jazz were the 1st seed. They were better. And it's funny how the Suns also were winning when Chris Paul was injured. The Suns also were winning when D-Book was injured. The other teams weren't when their mans was injured. So they're actually just a deep team and a better team. Let's just be real. Let's just be real. A lot of y'all obviously didn't understand that the Suns, it's their first year. A lot of rookie playoffs, all of that type of stuff. And I said it's not going to be applicable to this team because, one, CP3, Monty Williams, that breed, D-Book, like Chris Paul said, is an old soul. That breed from your leaders, if they're of that ilk, it's not going to matter if it's their first playoffs or not. It's when you have guys who, lack ability, lack mental, that's where now it's like they need to warm up. No, not with these guys. No, and I told y'all from time and I called it. But anyways, it's not even about me. At the end of the day, give credit to the Suns. This is not no knock. If you really understand basketball, you'll know it's not a knock. That this is something that really was destined to happen. I think it was destined to happen regardless. I said the Suns or the Clippers are going to the finals, regardless of healthy or not. I already knew this. Now, obviously, people are going to argue this, that, and whatever. But let's just be real. Let's be real. Let's actually have a basketball conversation. Like, the Suns aren't one to play with. They're not the Hawks. They're not like one of those teams that is like, no, they've been elite this whole year. They have the perfect 3-and-D. Like, come on now. The way they play, like, it's not something like even if they're missing shots because of the tempo, they play elite defense. They're like, they're young as mixed. Like, they have the perfect blend. Like, that's something that I was always saying is gonna upset somebody. I said that from time. Now we look at the Clippers before I end this video because it's getting pretty long. We look at the Clippers and we just look at what they could do moving forward, what they could do. Obviously, they fought their heart out. Reggie Jackson deserves some bread. Now, there's some angles they could take, right? And obviously, with Zubats being out, the small ball type of lineup was really going to be taken to a new height when you have the benefits of a big/small ball, which would be Ibaka. Ibaka would be playing more like the Ayton, right? Where he could roll, and if he gets it, he could do that little hook and whatever, and hey, and you know how he does that? He could do the hook and all that type of stuff, but his popping game is elite, right? And he could protect the rim. He's more comparable to how Ayton plays, more so than Zubats and whatever. So that was something that would have unlocked them, and even that alone would have unlocked them further. And because he was injured, which is unfortunate, no one foresaw that. I think that injury did a lot of damage. That's why they struggle, because that component, even with Kawhi, probably would have been the team would have probably moved better. They would have moved more similar to how the PG and them were moving, because now Kawhi's in that pick and roll, pick pop. You can't really double him. Ibaka's popping and he's splashing. Then now if you try to double him and he pops and he gets it one more, and it's similar to the driving kick, but you're not so small where you have negatives. You have a big in there. You have a guy who can protect the rim, all that type of stuff. So it's like it's the literally the perfect blend of both, which is what Ayton was for the Suns. It's technically like a small ball, but not really, right? So that's where that ability, and that's without even Ayton popping to three, because he could just hit the mid range. But that perfect blend is more. You have more of a modern big type of, and then you have Ibaka who stretches the floor even more than Ayton. So you take him out the paint, etc. So Kawhi could just go downhill. Like, it's different. So, I think that if that factor was the championship factor, X factor for the Clippers, and the fact that they didn't have that all playoffs was a hindrance, and I already knew that was going to be more of a struggle without that, because my assessment coming into this season, knowing that Ibaka's there, I already said that alone made this Clippers team completely different, and to me made them a championship bound team or a finals bound team. So now the issue is, I think they should run it back, re-sign Ibaka. The only issue is, like Ball Stop was talking about this as well too, where do we choose one? Because it's not just about Kawhi versus PG, because they're like a redundant type of play style, right? Two wings, play the same position, do the same things, right? It's like one gets sacrificed when the other one is eaten, as opposed to some other ones. Like, perfect example is like the Nets and other teams. When one is eaten, the other guy could eat as well too, because they don't clash play style wise, position wise. Even forget the position, just play style wise, right? This team wouldn't clash. If PG was able to live off being like a Klay Thompson running off pin downs with it and then getting post ups here and there, and Eden, when Kawhi's out the game and I'm in the game, now I run pick and roll and I get my rhythm through that. But when Kawhi's there, I'll just come off curls. I'll play like a shooter, right? If PG was able to live in that and thrive off that, there would be no play style clash. But PG isn't comfortable unless he's literally being the focal point and doing multiple things. And you can't move like that. If Kawhi's the number one option, you're going to have to spot up and whatever. You know what I'm saying? So that's why he gets out of rhythm. But when he's the number one option, Kawhi's going to have to spot. I mean, you could choose. Maybe Kawhi could live in a spot up role. But it's hard to now put Kawhi in that spot up role when you've seen a blueprint work with Kawhi as the focal point working. Right? So it's like there's a clash in terms of Kawhi and PG. Maybe not character-wise, maybe off the court they're good and whatever. Just on the court, play style clash. And you could see that. So when you look at it from that perspective, now that Kawhi's a free agent, you could see where some people were thinking, yo, maybe does he just walk and go somewhere else where they're more similar to like Toronto in terms of, maybe he goes back to Toronto, you never know, or go somewhere else to like, there's other teams that he could go to, Portland. There's obviously you get Ben and maybe Kawhi, Joel Embiid type of thing. There's other teams that he can maybe go to that it's like, okay, you just integrate him and he can play who he plays and it's not going to hinder nobody else and they could play as whatever, right? As opposed to with PG, maybe PG gets another person. Like there's this dynamic that is at hand where, okay, what are we better as? Are we better with Kawhi and the team and we move from PG, or we're better with PG and the team and we re-sign the Reggies and everybody else goes to a higher state and then get a different type of big? You replace a Zubac, you get a different big that's more so like can fit with PG. There's ways to play this. So let me know what y'all think. We're not gonna, obviously in offseason we'll go more into what they should do, who they should get, obviously once the finals is done and all of that. But this is what's looming right now. Let me know if y'all think it's cap or if y'all think it's true, because if you really pay attention, there's different the way they move as a team as a whole with Kawhi and the way they move as a team as a whole with PG is different. Now your leader closing and just running the show and just that mental aspect with Kawhi there, that's at the best forefront individually. But the team, how they move their best, how they moved with PG as a team in terms of shooting and ball movement and whatever, confidence, all of that, right? You seem too different. So it's like you want the blend of the team, how they move, and PG, how they move with Kawhi. That will be the perfect match. But it's just unfortunate that it's not like that. It hasn't been like that, right? So, and PG has shown you that he's just not comfortable like that. He's just not. So, how do you play this? How do y'all play this? So y'all let me know in the comment section what y'all think. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, the Clippers had a great run. It is unfortunate that, and they could have got to I believe that they could have got to the finals if it all came down to if PG made that free throw or they didn't make a mistake. That's a whole different series. Right now, they're about to play Game 7, right? So, I said that one game was going to come out back to bite them. That one game right there. That literally was everything. That tip-in changed everything. So, it literally came down to a tip-in. For KD, it came down to toes at the line. You know what I'm saying? Because without that tip-in, it's a Game 7, and it's anything can happen Game 7, right? And you never know. Maybe they're up 3-2 coming into the game 6, so it's different pressure, right? It's different. So, obviously everything happens for a reason, how things transpire. This just feels like, and just smells like a Chris Paul year. D-Book winning a ring at a young age. Like, he's following the Kobe trajectory. This is how it goes, man. So, you know what I mean? It's ironic how CP3 wanted to play with Kobe, he got vetoed, and now he got the younger Kobe. You know what I'm saying? So, or a younger Kobe type or whatever, right? Obviously, he's not exactly Kobe, but, he's a blend. So, obviously, this is what Elite looks like. Like I said, you already know it's true talks, because true talks. We'll see how everything transpired. We're definitely gonna be doing finals games. We'll wait and see who wins from the Hawks and the Bucks, and then we'll be doing finals breakdowns. You already know. We continue, and it's what Elite looks like. I appreciate y'all. Obviously, the Clippers run came down to this, and it's unfortunate, but it happens, man. It happens, and I don't want people to act like just because Kawhi was out or just because Kawhi gets inserted back, it's like it's a guaranteed go to the finals. It's definitely not. It's definitely not. It will be the same type of struggle. It might be the same results with the Suns. It's not the same thing. There's nothing that has shown you that the Clippers will, in any scenario, guaranteed win in 6 or 7. There's not been one scenario that has shown you that. Not one scenario. So for you to just think like that, it's just like, man, to just erasing what transpired. They faced with healthy, or not healthy, but Kawhi there, it went 7 with the Mavs. Kawhi not there, actually went 6 with the Utah. But man's palms were sweaty. They were down 25. You know what I mean? It wasn't clear cut. What are man's talking about? And now the Suns, the best team in the conference, now man's are acting as if it was guaranteed. Come on now, we gotta be honest. And man's are acting like the Clippers just be closing. Only had one game where they closed for real. I'm talking about, it was 1-2 possessions away and they closed for real. And that was actually the one that they won with Kawhi. Other than that, and that was one time. There's bare games that the Mavs won the game and whatever. Come on now, let's just be real. We got to be real and have these conversations. Don't stop ignoring context. Don't say general statements. I despise that shit. If we had did it. Come on now, don't do that. Let's assess the game for real and break it down. You know what I'm saying? You already know. I appreciate y'all. It's True Talks. It's True Talk. Share, like, and subscribe. We out here. There's no doubt here. And there's no drought here. You feel me? Like I said, I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all, for tuning in. I already know. It's just what Elite looks like, man. Keep tuning into the channel. Spread the word. We got more games to do. I know a lot of y'all only was waiting for Clippers, you know what I'm saying? But, basketball is basketball. You can't just only love your one team and that's it. You got to see other teams. You got to watch the finals. You got to still watch these things to see what works, what doesn't, what's going on. Oh, is this player nice? It's you can't just only watch one team. That's come on now. Come on now. We got to move past that. You already know. I appreciate y'all, man. And I'm out, man.